Hello, I'm Marcia McMillan. Thanks for joining us this morning on CTV News Channel. The fate of a BC ostrich flock could become clearer today. The Supreme Court of Canada will release its decision on whether to hear a last-ditch appeal to save the birds, more than 10 months after the Canadian Food Inspection Agency ordered a cull amid an avian flu outbreak. Universal Ostrich Farms had already lost legal challenges in federal court and the Federal Court of Appeal, and the fate of the 300 birds now hinges on the High Court's decision. The Supreme Court delayed the call in September while it considered whether to hear the case. If it decides not to, there would be no legal barrier against the killing of the ostriches. If leave to appeal is granted, a final decision on the fate of the flock would come after a hearing at the High Court. With more, let's turn to CTV's Scott Hurst live in the National Newsroom for us. So, Scott, good morning to you. The decision from the Supreme Court is just the latest in what has been months of back and forth. How did we get to this point?
Marcia, this is a case that has garnered international headlines as Universal Ostrich Farms in southeastern BC, located near a small town in that part of the province, is fighting to save its flock as it spent more than the better part of 10 months fighting to save hundreds of its ostriches, a beloved flock, it says, that doesn't deserve to die, as the owners have been fighting and opposing a cull order from the Canadian Food Inspection Agency. And over that time, the farm has seen a groundswell of supporters showing up at the farm and standing behind their fight, including high-profile endorsements from south of the border. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., U.S. Health Secretary, even writing a letter to the CFIA in support of the farm, arguing the birds don't deserve to die and should be spared and could be valuable to study. So the question is, what led to this point? The Canadian Food and Inspection Agency issued that cull order last December after an avian flu outbreak. The owners of the farm have been fighting since then, fighting against that cull order, arguing the surviving ostriches show no signs of illness and therefore should be spared, while to counter that, the CFIA has said ostriches that appear healthy may still spread the disease. So, Marcia, the cull appeared imminent earlier in September, but the Supreme Court issued a temporary stay until it would decide whether or not to hear the case, and that was an 11th hour reprieve at that time for supporters, and now it comes down to today and whether or not Supreme Court will go ahead with hearing this case.
Okay, and we're expected this decision to be made this morning. So walk us through then, what would a decision to hear the case or not hear the case mean for the next steps in this story, Scott?
Marcia, we are expecting to hear from the Supreme Court within the hour, so we'll continue to follow this and bring you any updates as soon as they are available. If the court decides not to hear the case and lifts the temporary and lifts a stay on the cull, that temporary stay, there'd be nothing legally standing in the way of the CFIA, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, from beginning the cull and killing the hundreds of birds. On the other hand, if the court decides to hear the case, then a final decision won't be made today. A final decision on the fate of that flock, Marcia, would come after that hearing.
All right, Scott Hurst starting us off. We're watching that closely. I know you'll bring us details again as the Supreme Court makes a decision at some point during this hour. So, Scott, we'll talk to you again soon. For more on this story, you can go to our website, ctvnews.ca.